Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this discourse on problem solving once again. We are into episode 4. Let all of us know the symptoms. Let all of us know the symptoms, but let only doctor know the disease. But let only the doctor know the disease, and that is to keep off self-doctoring. Let only doctors know the disease. There's a huge space which confounds us. Sometimes the problem is to know what exactly is happening. I see the smoke, but I don't know what is burning. I don't know what exactly is happening. Sometimes we also have an issue. Where did it all begin? Where did it all begin? To bring into focus something will require an extraordinary engineering. To go closer and closer to the focus of this, because you might be destroying only the symptoms in the hope that you are solving a problem. You might only be destroying the symptoms, and that is going to further take you away from the source, because symptoms will lead you to the cause much more easily. So when you cough is not a problem. Cough is a symptom. Bronchitis could be a problem. When you have a muscular pain, muscle is not a problem. The problem may be calcium deficiency, etc. I don't want to dwell much upon the medical field. We are entering a new space, the space that confounds us, and we'll have to last there. If we don't and quit, the problem will only come back and hit us in the back. The chance for a batsman who has got fears of a big man running into him and bowling a semi-sonic cricket ball, 600 grams, traveling at you in an uncharted path. Uncharted path. Every ball has to be different. It's an uncharted path. Your best chance is to keep your eyes open. Your best chance is to keep your eyes open. If you close your eyes, you might survive maybe a couple of deliveries like that, but you will never be able to stand tall on the cricketing pitch. On a bad day for a batsman, every ball shoots up. They say on a bad day for a batsman, every ball shoots up. And on a bad day for the bowler, every ball is like a friendly, hello, hi, how do you do? How are you doing in the office? It's just good morning and good evening. So you're never going to stand up tall in the cricketing crease if you close your eyes. So living with that confounding space is an important lesson of tolerance. Important lesson on tolerance. The famous treat of philosophy in form of ahimsa, the non-violence, is born out of this feeling that there is no missionary killer. People often hurt each other for no reasons, for no cause. They didn't mean to do so. Half the time they do it. Doesn't it happen that we ourselves I mean, we are teachers and management consultants and trainers and, always people, who stand in front of cameras. Don't we make mistakes? Don't we say something which, oh, slip of tongue, a very bad slip of tongue? We do that. So there's no conviction about crimes. Everybody who wants to hurt us, they are not criminals. To separate his urge to make a mistake, we want to stand forth there. We could have dwelt upon ahimsa, the non-violence, in a separate chapter, but I want to begin on this right away as a kind of a parallel stream of thinking. That probably that's the easiest thing to happen is to forgive and forget someone's wrong deeds, and not spoil your happiness. So it so happened that this comes from my childhood story. I mean, in the childhood normally, we have stories about big things. The so-called coming from the mythology, etc., etc. So these stories have a lot of mystic. Okay, so that is to, of course, install a faith. No reason you want to believe it. That's a faith. So it's a beginning of a faithful journey of faith rather, and I don't know whether it is separated by religion or not. I personally never felt so. That probably every religion has the same idea of creating a welfare of the human being by creating a faith in it. So there were the mystic stories, and suddenly, when as I grew, probably I was just about 10 or 11 year when I read this. This comes from a book called Panisha Blues, and it is a very small book. That's why I was comforting. I found it a comforting exercise, a comforting friend, written by a gentleman called R.T. Pereira. In that book, there's a very small story, and I would have said this story 100 times in my professional training. It has rained very heavily in a village earlier night. As the new day starts, people start going about their jobs, their work. So somebody puts, it's a typical Indian village scene, so somebody puts some large boulders, on the way in such a way that you could, jump over the boulder, hop a bit, or jump over a bit, and cross over to your place, your destination. So while a thin little man like me was on one end trying to cross over to the other, a big hefty man is at the other end. And while I'm just trying to place my foot, like this on one stone, and I look up, oh, I see this giant feature. He looks at me and, chagrined by my presence, says, "Look, I never give way to fools. I never give way to fools." And there this little fellow, he just steps back and says, "But I always give. But I always give." This space, the confounding space, the torture period, God has made the humanity in a way that this torture period is much shorter than one can imagine. It is much shorter than one can imagine. And one has to last this phase. If we can, you will see the problem differently. You will see the problem vanished, or you will see the problem is not related to whether I pay the money or not. The problem is the time at which I pay the money. The thief is putting his barrel on me, maybe actually looking for only a dinner. Maybe a bigger thief is looking for a dinner for him and his poor family members. Maybe it's like that. That anyway, I think everybody has a budget of this philanthropy, for this philanthropy. So maybe rather than doing it on some Amavas and some Purnima, and some full moon day and some no moon day, you do it today. You can look at this separately, distinctly, distinctively, distinguishedly. It's all your choice how you want to react to the problem. So there we are. Now we are entering into the psychology of problem solving. And the psychology of problem solver, I like it. As we travel forth into this, you will realize how many problems, just how many problems, just how many problems we create for ourselves. How the problems are gone. You accuse someone, you say a bad word, and you forget it. Hopefully he has also forgotten it. It's not a problem. But you carry it thinking that next day morning you have to write a long letter and you don't know the script of that letter. But the discretion, when to forget, when to forgive, when to forget, when to forgive, and when not to do any of these, will require a lot of determination. I looked at the faith. I talked about the faith, the capsule of faith that is delivered through those mystic stories. It might come handy here. It might come. I'm not proposing that. But faith could come very handy. It seems an endless task to bring in focus all the issues, all the things that are happening. They're actually happening. Actually, they are happening. Not a fickle imagination of yours. It would be quite an arduous task to do that. Quite an arduous task. Arduous task to do that. At the same time, you may have to bring your camera a little further to be able to see the panorama. To be able to see the panorama. Like a typical musical scene in Indian films. Initially, you will see only the heroine's voice coming from deep within the valley, and then a little later, a rough, frail figure of the heroine, and then she comes in, and somewhere at a certain point in the poetry, the face completely appears, and then at a certain point in the poetry that she's going to sing, her eyes look straight into the camera. Reverse this and you will see how you can handle problems. The process is this. You will have to see the context and not the content. Just the content. They say, the better the poet, the more he hides the context. And the lesser the poet, the more he spreads the content, make a very obvious statement. The lesser the poet he is, more obvious is his problem statement. It's like colloquial. Then what's the difference between colloquial and painting? What's the difference between a little child drawing his mother's figure using an ink pen and a great abstract painter who tries to draw the mother universe as mother? Who tries to draw the trees and the mountains and the valleys and the canals, and you, me, all of us, the living beings, as the daughters and sons. What's the difference between that? So as you draw the camera back, sometimes the problems may get qualified as theatrical algebra. I'm not joking. A theatrical algebra. Sometimes it could be a metaphoric geometry. The geometry of metaphors. Metaphor is going to be an increasingly more and more interesting way of problem solving. It's going to be a very beautiful tool of problem solving. It could be sometimes an ethereal chemistry. It could be sometimes an ethereal chemistry. As you draw the camera back, you might be able to see a larger perspective. So with a beautiful line and a beautiful, gist that I've used very often, again, in my training, I would sign off for this event. Anything could be taught at 3 levels. The definition, the concept, philosophy. Anything could be taught at 3 levels. The definition, the concept, and the philosophy. So with this, goodbye to you with a message. Come to problem solving. Come to life.